Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Fred Eno is with us in the Abuja studio. Okay, and also joining us from Abuja is Honorable Sanni Zorro, who was president of the Nigerian Union of Journalists and also a former member of the House of Representatives. And we have also joining us in the spokesperson of Afenifere, the Pan-Yoruba socio-political group, Yinka Odumakin. Yinka Odumakin, you're welcome.
My pleasure.
Yes. Well, let me come to you, Dr. Okupe. You heard what Fred Eno said earlier on about the details, but I had already asked him about June 12th being a day when there was something that was adjudged the freest and the fairest election. And I'd asked him, have we learned any lessons? When we look back, we all jubilated when the military left. It's been 20 years since then. What has democracy brought us 20 years later?
Very, very little. In terms of national development, in terms of showing civility and marked civilization in handling political affairs, Nigeria has moved very, very little distance, which is quite shameful. But this is the truth. I mean, what we have just seen in the last elections, I'm not talking about APC, I'm not talking about PDP, but if you're just a general observer of events in Nigeria, and you're a Nigerian, you feel ashamed. So really, politics has actually changed in the country. In the times of Abiola, even though Abiola had so much wealth, it was not about money. It wasn't about money. I was in NRC. The day Abiola was going to go and meet with Babangida to inform him that he was going to run the election, you know, we met at the airport, and he said, Mama, he called me aside. He said, this is my mission. He said, where am I staying? I said, Nikon. He said, when he gets to the hotel, I should get in touch with him. I did. He knew my room number. When he was leaving, when he was going to go to the president at that time, IBB, dropped in my room and said, I'm on my way. And he came back at about 4 a.m. and told me, I've done so and so, and the road is clear, I'm going. I was NRC. I was National Public Secretary of NRC. He was presidential candidate. In fact, I was more than that. I was director of communications for Bashir Tofa, and we fought a battle. Do you understand my point? But when it was over and he had won, and it appeared as if NRC was going to collude with the government then, you know, I stepped out and I said, I'm not going to be part of this. You understand my point? And from there I went, and that's how I became a member of NADECO. What I'm trying to say is that all those people on NADECO platform, all the people who demonstrated, you know, in and outside Lagos, all those who came out, it was not monetary consideration. Today, there's a major gulf, a major divide, a major dislocation between office seekers and the people who vote them in. In fact, there's usually very little interface. It was, you know, the money, you know, just the movement now. You know, the money does the movement now, and there's no relationship.
So what you're saying is that money has created a barrier between the people and the electorate and the president, and also ethnicity has created a barrier as well. So how can we get back to how it was in June 12, 1993, when sacrosanctity of the people's will was premium?
It's going to be very difficult to get back there. We will have to go. I'm not a pessimist. I'm not a pessimist, but I'm a realist. And I've been in this game for 40 years. I have nothing else to, I'm not running for anything. I'm not competing for anything. I've done my bit, and I'm happy and satisfied with how far I have gone. I can only be useful to Nigeria now if I use the totality of the experience that I have, you know, to help the country in terms of ideas and to help young people climb on our backs to get to the top, so that where we could not reach, you guys can get there. It's no longer about wanting to be something. I must speak the truth. If I cannot speak the truth, we will not get a repeat of June 12 again. June 12, I told you, was an embodiment of an extraordinary, phenomenal personality in the person of Abiola. How will you create that again?
That's not possible, sir. But is there any legislative measures or any sort of social consciousness? Because even now, a Muslim ticket is unthinkable. What needs to be done in the minds of Nigerians so we don't see each other in these terms? So we see each other as individuals and we see candidates as what do they have to offer? What needs to be done with our electoral management board, for instance?
We've got to go back to the basics, all right? What is going on now, what we're doing now, is not going to work and it's not going to lead us to anywhere. That's the truth. We have to resolve issues internally from within to without. Okay? There's no way you can say you want to be president, all right, and I will not consider where you're coming from. It's impossible. I'm not going to accept that. And also, people also from the east, from the north, will also not accept it. And, we have become so polarized that, whether you're a Muslim or you're a Christian matters. People may not say these things, but they do.
So then
before they didn't matter, but now they matter.
So with that retrospect and that view as well, Mr. Odumakin, I'll pose this question to you as well. Do you believe that the Southwest has been compensated per se, seeing as MKO Abiola never actually got to serve his tenure that he rightfully won? Has the Southwest been compensated for that, or should we not be looking at it?
Overcompensated.
Or should we not be looking at it from that vision? Seeing as
overcompensated.
Or should we not be looking at it from that vision? Okay, so I would like to hear from you.
No, let me say that.
Mr. Odumakin, I would like to hear from you.
Let me answer.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. We have not in a way been compensated.
No, that's
okay,
not
why
true.
would you say so?
Well, you have a chance. You have a chance to.
You have a flaw. Okay. Now, first of all, before I move to that, you touched on something very important, which I must not let go. When you talk about the question of Muslim, Christian, whatever. Look, on June 12th, Abiola Kingibe, Muslim. Nigerians did not look at that. We are looking at fair way to poverty. When Abiola was campaigning in Kano, a young man fell down from the tree when he heard in Hausa that Abiola said, if I become president, nobody will go to bed without food in his belly. Never heard that before. Today we are the global secretariat of poverty. And we are celebrating June 12th. Now to your question about compensation. There's no compensation at all. The compensation that we can have for June 12th, look, because we know is a nationality question that remains unresolved today. That's why Abiola was not president. In 1982, Abiola left MPN when he was told that the president was not for sale. I spoke with Animal Duko 8 4 days ago, who told me that, look, in 1983, all the papers Yoruba people in MPN brought to the MPN headquarters about how to win Yoruba land. Animal Duko said they should dump them in the dustbin. That because they want to take governor, all we need them for is to vote for Shagari. For governor, we don't have no interest. He said, why? Because it's in our guidelines. Anybody wants to be president must have governor in the state. We don't want him to be president. So, and it was that feeling that still stopped Abiola on June 12th. Now, the only way Southwest that we can consider is if we imbibe the spirit of June 12th. Today we are celebrating June 12th under the spirit of annulment. On the eve of June 12th, AIT was shut down. Dr. Poe was talking about the money this time. The money spent in our National Assembly election, presiding officers. I've not heard of that kind of money before. Being spent. Today, June 12th was about, the spirit of June 12th was about national integration. My brother just coming from Osun now, in West Me now, herdsmen wearing army uniform. As at this morning, terrorizing people on the road. No, and there's no law and order. Who is that herdsman in Nigeria today that's under trial? We're not talking about competition. Which competition? We cannot sleep with our two eyes closed today. So, that's Obasanjo was president in 1999 was not a competition to us. He got together with his party. He campaigned the country, won the election. That was no competition. So then nobody talk about competition at all. The only way today is convenience to say we are spending June 12th because Abiola can no longer fight for power. Recognize, make celebrate June 12th from January to December now. Abiola, his bones are rotting in the grave. So you cannot struggle with power again. Why he was killed was that he was struggling with power with you. So me and you were fighting over land. I kill you. After I kill you, I build my house on the land. Then 20 years after, I say, my friend, that guy was a great fighter. What does that mean to us?
Well, Dr. Okupe, you seem to have a different opinion.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think one of the difficulties that we have is that I'm not an activist. I'm a thoroughbred politician, and I think politically at all times when we're talking about issues like this. I've said it here that there's no way only God can compensate us for the death of Abiola, because reproducing an Abiola in Africa itself will be almost an impossibility. So how do you get compensated for the death of such a man?
Thomas Sankara
Let me just finish.
said,
Thomas Sankara is not on the platform of Abiola.
If they kill me, 1,000 Thomas Sankaras will be born. Is it more to do with our orientation?
Let me tell you, Abiola was greater than the greatest in Africa. When Abiola went, this is diversion. When Abiola went to, I didn't go with him, but he went to Uganda.
I heard about that.
Yeah, he went to Uganda. The president of Uganda was at a cabinet meeting when the report came that Abiola's plane has touched the ground. He rose and said, "Gentlemen, I will have to close this meeting." He said, "A distinct and very important son of Africa has just touched ground in Uganda." And he and his entire cabinet filed to the airport to go and receive him. Tell me where else has that happened? We cannot replace Abiola. The people like them, they just come in a generation and that's it. Now, what I'm trying to say about compensation is this. Yes. I'm a politician. All right? I'm a politician. And what happened after Abiola's death and we had an election, was a national compensation. Because it was not meant that Obasanjo should be president. The whole country conceded the presidency to the Southwest. It was head and tail we won. It was a Falaye versus an Obasanjo, and head and tail, all right, in the two parties that contested, one presented a Yoruba man, second presented a Yoruba man. So, I think, and I am grateful personally, that we were so treated, because it was an appreciation of our loss, which can never be compensated fully. But politically, it will be unjust, it will be unfair to the rest of the country that refused to compete, because they had a chance. The Igbos could have put up a candidate, the Northerners could have put a candidate, and only God knows what could have happened. But for having that mind, I agree with you, all the things that's happened and all that. But political compensation was duly paid to the Southwest. This is my opinion.
Well, I know that there will be different views, but let's bring Honorable Sanni Zorro into the conversation. Honorable Sanni Zorro is in our Abuja studio. Honorable Zorro, thanks for coming to the morning show again. I'm sure you must have been listening to Yinka Odumakin and Dr. Doyin Okupe about the politics of June 12 and the significance of June 12. We'd like to have your own take on what today means to Nigerians and not just to the Southwest. But we'll take a short break and then we'll come back to you. Yes, Honorable Sanni Zorro, we're back. And as I was saying, I would like to have your take on Democracy Day, its meaning and its, symbolism.
Thank you very much, my brother, and I'm happy to join Dr. Okupe and Yinka, who have been my brothers long time, big time. Now, the significance of June 12 as a national holiday has already been debated, and I think there is a general consensus among majority Nigerians who are politically aware that there is the need, there is justification for today being June 12 declared as a national holiday for all the reasons that have been adduced. But let me say that as far as I'm concerned, states and governments all over the world have been in the habit of committing political mistakes since history. And one way of atoning, if you want, for the sin of states and governments over time have been to, among other considerations, spare a day that is declared as a public holiday in commemoration of that political mistake that was either intentional or it was a human error. There are other methods also for mitigating, those kind of political mistakes, such as June 12th. For instance, museums and monuments being named after persons who spearheaded certain forms of struggles and in the process either lost their lives. Like in the United States of America, we can all recall that the murder of Martin Luther King is what brought about, the commemoration of a particular day that is, celebrated or commemorated, as a Civil Rights Day. And in so many other countries. Apart from that, in general literature, governments deliberately ensure that in history lessons, such events are captured for future generations to understand what went wrong and also to make up somehow for those mistakes. Then there are also other methods of compensating, of course not adequate compensation like my brother Yinka had said, or compensating or making up, for what happened, the misdeeds of the past, whether deliberate or not deliberate. Now, I give you an example. After the assassination of General Murtala Mohammed, who was head of state in 1975, Murtala Mohammed was from Kano, and it was when General Obasanjo, his then lieutenant, second in command, took over. He named the biggest airport then as Murtala Mohammed Airport. And I remember in Yaba, there is also the longest stretch of the street there is called Murtala Mohammed Way. Now, some of Murtala's associates, like Governor Ibrahim Tayo, has a whole road named after him in Kano, Ibrahim Tayo Road, in Kaduna, and so on and so forth. Now, what this means is that in history, subsequent governments can come up with initiatives to mitigate or in order to assure aggrieved groups that the death of their sons and daughters or people generally who were in the trenches in order to ensure social justice, their efforts were not in vain. Now, I give you other examples. Take Rwanda, for instance, whose president is currently here in Nigeria. The genocide that led to the massacre of 800,000 people, how do you atone for that? You cannot possibly wake 800,000 souls, from the dead. But a series of measures had to be taken to ensure that that kind of, bestiality does not happen in Rwanda again, including a policy, if not a law, that prohibits Rwandans from identifying themselves either as Tutsis or Hutus. In other words, the deliberate de-emphasis on identity politics, and it's working for them. Now, there is lesson learned over there.
Honorable Zorro, your point is clear.
The aim...
Honorable Zorro, yes. If I may interject here, Yes, I understand what you are saying, but 20 years after the return to civilian rule and the exit of the military in Nigeria, will you say Nigerians have gained anything substantial? Will you say that our civilian leaders have done much better than the military? But before you respond to that, I would like to inform you, that we also have in the studio here in Lagos, Chief Dele Momodu, who is the publisher of Ovation, chairman Ovation TV, and also a very close associate of the late Chief MKO Abiola. He arrived just as you were, mentioning the names of Yinka Odumakin and Dr. Doyin Okupe. So, Honorable Sanni, Zorro, back to you. How have we fared? Have we done better having a civilian rule?
Yeah, in the context of the journey from June 12 to date, yes, there are gains that can be mentioned. For instance, why some of us consider June 12 as a benchmark is because it is very unlikely that national elections of the magnitude and significance of June 12 can never be cancelled again. One, again, it was a consensus that June 12 was not only the freest and fairest election conducted in Nigeria since independence, it was also the very best, which so many countries shared in the results, not only Nigerians, and also tried to copy. Now, I can also go on to say that the ownership of the outcome of June 12 was actually national in character. I remember very well that it was the late Adamu Chiroma who described the outcome of June 12 as far as Chief Abiola's victory was concerned, and said Chief Abiola had won fair and square. And among the notable Nigerians who championed the cause of June 12 for its actualization were leading lights in northern politics, such as the late Adamu Chiroma himself, who was in the NRC, who was once a presidential candidate, whose also process was truncated. When he or the late Adua, one would have emerged as president. The late Alhaji Abubakar Rimi, Chief Solomon Lar, the late Solomon Lar, Alhaji Sule Lamido, who is still living, Professor Jerry Gana, and quite a number of those who constituted the Club of Seven, called G7. Lest we forget, this, together with pan-Nigerian politicians, Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, Chief Jim Uwobodo, and the rest of them from all parts of the country, and governors such as Governor Ma'aji Lawal of Borno State, were those stubborn politicians who actually, ensured that the campaign for actualization reached certain stage before certain elements came, as far as I'm concerned, and started the politics of division. And that is what the Abacha regime actually capitalized on, to also bring those champions of June 12 who wanted its actualization and brought them into the government, and that's what spelled the final death knell of June 12, unfortunately. I also give you an example, my brother, and all of you, and Dele Momodu, my brother big time, with whom we were on Concord. The first anniversary of June 12 in 1994, I was in attendance in the Ikeja residence of Chief MKO Abiola. It was almost hijacked by those kind of elements. Of course, we can all understand young people from the universities who are roaming the streets, canvassing on behalf of Yoruba land. That's their own context. They saw everything from the perspective that the Southwest or Yoruba land had been shortchanged. But we saw it as a national issue. Now, they harassed quite a number of people. Some of us ran away. The following year, and you can cross-check from our senior colleague and mentor, Chief Shogun Oshoba, in 1995, we attempted to go to Abeokuta, where June 12th was to be celebrated. On the way to Abeokuta from Lagos, we called Chief Segun Oshoba, only to hear Chief Oshoba panting like he was running away. And we asked what was happening. Sir, what's happening? He said, don't come to Abeokuta, don't come to Abeokuta, because these boys have scattered the show. Now, those kind of behavior, those kind of conduct was what scared certain people and actually fenced off, future participation in June 12th as a national project.
Thank you,
then
Honorable.
It was hijacked by certain people who took ownership.
Honorable, thank you for that perspective. It's very important to note. A lot of people were literally scared of. And Dr. Abati, you're hearing some of the villainy that you were seeking earlier. You're starting to hear some of those, stories being told. Now, I have a question for you, Chief Dele Momodu, Uncle Dele. What does it mean to you? What does this commemoration today mean to you? As somebody who was incredibly close to my dad, and also somebody who sacrificed personally with regards to June 12th, on one hand. On the other hand, you've been vocal about the type of democracy that we're practicing today, particularly with electoral malpractice. So I'll leave you to consider that while we go on a short break, then we'll come back and take your answer. Welcome back to the morning show. Chief Momodu, so I wanted to know your thoughts on this commemoration today and the kind of democracy that we're practicing.
Thank you, my very dear sister, Tudun. My intervention is very simple. We cannot overemphasize the importance and significance of June 12th, but I've had the opportunity of listening to the various speakers this morning, and I want to disagree with them. The impression, especially from my brother, Malam Sanni Zorro, is that people were scared away from June 12 being a national affair. I disagree. It was the military at play, and they are still in charge. So people tend to see it as, oh, we have moved now from military era to democratic space. No. And I'll give you the trajectory. One, we had a Babangida government that was busy playing games. That's why it was called Maradona at the time. Today, you ban some people. Tomorrow, you unban them. And then we had a series of transition programs that led nowhere. Thereafter, we hurriedly packaged the interim government and brought in Chief Shuneko. Of course, some other military guys were hovering in the wings, waiting. And within 6 months, or thereabout, we had a Shuneko kicked out, and Abacha came in. And then, before we could say Jack Robinson, Chief Abiola, who won the best election in Nigeria, was hauled into prison. So, who scared who? Who scared the military into jailing a man who won an election? The truth of the matter is that the military had no intention of going away. And if you look at all those who contested, even after General Abdulsalami Abubakar left, you had Obasanjo. So when Egbon was saying they considered to who? You had two candidates. One was a military retired general. We had Chief Olufalaye, who was a distinguished banker, economist. You didn't consider him. So if you considered to Yoruba land, so where did they hold a meeting? And they decided that it was Obasanjo's turn and not Olufalaye's turn. So it's all a mirage. Even by the time they brought in Umaru Yar'Adua's main consideration was because he was the brother of a retired major general who died in prison, who himself had wanted to be president and was once upon a time a business partner of Chief Abiola. Of course, Jonathan came just by accident. And that is why a lot of us were also packaged into getting rid of him so that the military can reinstate itself in power.
So this is an open admission.
Open. I've apologized.
You allowed yourself to be used.
We were packaged. We were packaged. So we were mesmerized, we were hypnotized, and then Buhari came. Of course, after Buhari came, what do we have again? Is Buhari. So now we have Buhari a second term. I won't be surprised if very soon some people will be drumming and saying, let Buhari rule forever. It's normal. The military, look, at the time, even Lieutenant General Ali Gozo was also waiting and hoping he could be president. So just go and check your history very well. Let's forget about the shenanigans and all the theory that, the military has gone now. You have, as far as I'm concerned, the military is still in control of Nigeria, and that is why you will have a full control of the executive by the executive, of the legislature by the executive, of the judiciary by the executive, of the media by the executive. Simple. That is full-blown dictatorship. Take it or leave it.
Chief Momodu, with that being said then, the fact that you believe that the military is still in control and in power in Nigeria today, that means to say that we've had 20 years of no democratic rule, actually. So let's speak about the roadmap for democracy for Nigeria and the way forward. What does Nigeria need to do to place itself in a position whereby not only are we operating a polity that functions on democracy, but democracy is ingrained at the hearts of the people?
You see, I used to be an incurable optimist. I'm no longer an optimist. That's the truth. There's a Yoruba saying that a woman whose child has been killed by a witch sees every woman as a witch. So today, I am very convinced that Nigerians are not ready for democracy. Why? Because we've allowed ourselves to be manipulated repeatedly. They said, you know, if you have been fooled once, it's okay. When you are fooled a second time and a third time, it means you are a certified fool. So what is happening in Nigeria today is that you have politicians without ideology, you have politicians without principle. You can wake up in the morning in APC and go to bed in PDP. And who cares? In nearby Ghana, that is not possible. You cannot leave your party and go to another party and still maintain your position in government. No. So what we need to move forward is for us to begin to have principled politicians, not career politicians. You can't make a career of politics. You must have distinguished yourselves in other careers before you come into politics. And when you quit, you must have somewhere else you are going. So the biggest task ahead of us is how we can convince more people who have things to fall back on to come into power. But where you have to share money for you to vote for A or vote for B, the military will always have an upper hand because they've been in the system for too long. They know the system. Let me tell you, 2023 is knocking already. And whosoever is going to win must have the backing of what I call the Nigerian mafia. It's always like that. And it is the military elites. They know they have the template. They know it inside out. That all you have to do, make sure you have your person in INEC. I have never seen the kind of INEC that we have now. Before our very eyes, everything we ever worked for evaporated. There was one night, that was the day I thought, okay, I had some hope left. I was watching the chairman of INEC, and he swore that he will do the right things. So can we say we did the right things in all these elections that we have seen in the last couple of years? No. So there is someone, there is a big brother somewhere dictating the pace and the tune. And until we can rescue ourselves and our country from that grip.
This question you have asked, we're going to throw it open because I'm sure you have your own views on, some of the points he has raised. But Honorable Sanni Zorro, let's come back to you quickly in Abuja. Do you agree with Chief Dele Momodu that what we have is democracy without Democrats and that Nigeria is still in the hands of the military elite, one way or the other? And can we ever get the kind of principled politicians that he is asking for?
Okay, why not? I can agree with Dele, but I have also my own reasons. First of all, Ruben, let me remind listeners that it was myself who on the 11th of this month in 2017 moved the motion for MKO Abiola to be conferred with the GCFR and also moved the second leg of the motion for June 12 to be declared as public holiday. And it was a very nice thing when the federal government the following year, 2018, conferred the GCFR honor, the highest honor of the land on Chief MKO Abiola. And I can remember that when I was given time to debate my motion, there were opposition from some members from a particular part of the country. I remember, I wouldn't want to say so. And by the time I started to list the composition of Concord, and Dele Momodu is there to bear me witness, when I described Chief MKO Abiola actually as, an equal opportunities employer or provider, when I start to mention the names of Chief MCK Ajuluchukwu as one-time general manager of Concord, for instance, or my own bosses such as Lewis Obi, Ogbochukwu, Stanley Ogbochukwu, and quite a number of them, and then our colleagues like Chike Akabogo and the rest of them. People didn't seem to know the kind of empire, business empire, that Chief MKO Abiola ran. That is just by the way. But I remember vividly, led by the newly elected speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, members from the Southwest came to embrace me, to congratulate me. And I thought I didn't do anything spectacular. I now asked, why were they so excited that they could come and congratulate me? They say, oh, if the motion had emanated from the Southwest, if that motion had emanated from the Southwest, it would have been defeated because there are certain members that would not allow it to go through. And I, at some point in time, upon reflection, I now thank my stars that, oh, from the part of the country that I came, I could come up with such a motion and there will be a national consensus built around it and it will go. Then let's come back to what Dele Momodu has said. Yes, it is true that the military are still embedded, in Nigeria's political process. And there are two examples I can give you, to validate this point. Why is it that every election cycle, politicians will be jetting to Abeokuta to go and confer with General Olusegun Obasanjo? Or they will go to Mina for photo shots with General Ibrahim Babangida, when these politicians actually are people from Anambra, Borno, or such other parts of the country that have nothing to do. Why do they go for the blessing of the military? The fact of the matter is that the involvement of the military in Nigerian politics did not start with the cancellation of June 12th. No, it started with the incursion of the military into Nigerian politics in 1966. And since then, I want to remind my colleagues, especially...
Thank you, Malam Zorro. We'll need to... Malam Zorro, thank you very much. We'll need to take a short break at this point, and then we'll come back. Stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Yes, just before we went on break, we had this discussion about principled politicians, Democrats not, being in charge of democracy in Nigeria. Yinka, what's your own take on this?
Well, I was saying this morning that June 12, original June 12, we're weeping today as celebrating June 12. Because, like Bobby said, and I think beyond the entrenched military forces, I was reading a chapter from Pat Tommy's new book that was talking about how criminals hijack the Nigerian politics. Today, criminals have taken over politics. Did they know who had got over the floor of the Senate? Mr. Senate President, there are criminals on this floor. What's going on? It was said to have seen an armed robber he once caught as a policeman sitting next to him. What are you doing here? He said, I'm a senator. Senator? And go all over Nigeria today. There's some states you go to, the opportunity you go to when you look at the whole assembly, you can picking them out. This one was a foreigner, this one was a thief, this one was this. All over the place. And so in the midst of that, the kind of money that are moving around within our politics, honestly, we cannot find access to such money. And that's why our cream cannot come on top. The cream will always be at the, below, under this kind of an element. And there's a larger fear. Because when you look at what happened on the floor of the National Assembly, even before, the night before, reminding us of the days of AB and the rest of them, black market injunction on the eve of the Momodu ballots, and then the kind of money that were being mentioned, passing hands, just to have leaders of National Assembly. So, the interesting thing is that it was interesting, it was yesterday before yesterday, as we also said, as we are doing all these things, we are having one anti-corruption yesterday. It's an event for somewhere. And I look at it, and I saw, if you are fighting corruption, people who should have been locked dead in jail, sitting down, saying they are fighting corruption. So it's a whole mockery, a whole joke. And that's why some of us believe that, look, the only way June 12th spirit can become president is when this country go back to the spirit of June 12th. People have forgotten in this country that when Abiola was campaigning in 1993, Abiola made it very clear. If I become president, NNPC operation will open. You know how much you make. You know how much you do. Do you have that today? We have forgotten the issue between the former minister of petroleum and the Barrow. The other thing was shut down. And so, when now because we are fighting corruption, I asked, which corruption are we fighting? In 2014, Transparency International, Nigeria was 136. After 4 years of fighting corruption, we are 144. So where we are today, as a country, I agree with you. Essentially, I don't feel comfortable with that. We have 20 years of democracy. We have 20 years of civil rule, and that's because civil rule that's itself should be modified. It's not democracy we are practicing here. Just yesterday, a man who was alleged to have led talks to carry the mace in National Assembly. He elevated. That crime was not resolved. The police said they found the mace under some bridge in Abuja. Till to date, we don't know. We are not the ones who carried the mace. We cannot run a country like this. So we are not yet there, and we cannot pretend that we're there. And what that faces us, which is much more terrible, is that we are witnessing the Nigeria as a country. My big brother, who was saying that time, like that, wants to give the rest of his life to give advice to the country and so on. The truth of the matter today is that the whole idea of a country is disappearing. There's no country here anymore. We have a country when a group of Nigerians with the same Itiala, they will be admitted that they are killing people. And not today. Tell me one country, which one member is on trial. When the pastor came out and said, this is the agenda of Boko Haram and Itiala. To date, Itiala has not said a word. Boko Haram has not said a word. Lai Mohammed and Garba are the ones speaking for them.
But what needs to be done? Because this quasi-military, pseudo-democratic system that you're describing, I mean, if we're going to paraphrase the Bible, you have to be hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, you get spat out. What do we need to do as a country to actually get to the promised land of a fully democratic system?
I think Dr.
Okay.
Maybe Dr. Okupe, who
Now,
says he is now offering advice.
I am now a consultant plenipotentiary. No, really speaking, this is a fractured and fatally crippled country as we have it now. We must accept that. And unfortunately, one of the banes of the society, or a society that will not make it, is a society that has adopted money as its common denominator. For you to get anything done, either in the private sector, in the public sector, in the family, money is a central matter. Once we have instituted money or exchanged money for morality, for public conduct, for governance, there's nothing we put on it that can stay. It's not going to stay. So what do? This government must go on. Let the government go on. But we, the people, must also change, go back to basics. If a man is forced, I spoke to one of the candidates that, who had just been inaugurated as a governor. The gentleman told me that he spent 6-7 billion naira to become governor. Any society that allows that is not a society that is looking for progress. I'm not talking about APC. I'm not talking about PDP. And any community that demands and takes 6 billion, 7 billion, 10 billion from elected official is not expecting good governance. So, my brothers and sisters, what we can do is, while it's, the country cannot be on hold, the country can go on. But, like he's talking about, let us begin to prepare for a new nation. And how do we prepare for a new nation? This system that we're working at is not going to work. We must move slightly apart to be unified centrally. We must move slightly apart. Luckily, the kind of what I'm hearing from the villa is encouraging. President Buhari is not talking about federalism. He's not talking about restructuring. Unless we actually sincerely, while the government is going on, pari passu, institute things and structures that will lead us before 2023 into true federalism, and to restructure this country is just going to be a joke.
Do you agree that federalism or restructuring is the way forward?
No, I agree, but for Dr. Okupe to still believe that these guys are just brainwashing you. They always speak. Once upon a time, they told us, the way forward is a national government. Then everybody started talking national government. Then the next thing they said, let's have a review of our constitution. And then, of course, Yinka was a part of it. They carried everybody to Abuja. It was another jamboree. Nothing came of it. Then the next thing now, we're all shouting restructuring. Restructuring what? Who is restructuring it? We all know that once upon a time, we had the parliamentary system that worked. Then some people had their brain waves and brought a presidential system, and you want to practice capitalism without capital, which is our problem. See, these guys are just playing games. They know what you want to hear. They have isolated your leaders. They know that if they want to enslave Yoruba today, there are willing partners. If you want to go to Igbo, there are willing partners. If you want to go to the north, there are willing partners. So it's like a potpourri of rubbish. Don't come here, sir, and tell me that, now you've started hearing what you are hearing is Greek. So I am not sure that anybody understands what people mean when they talk about federalism. What exactly is it? Look, back to June 12th, before we forget the main reason why we're here. Anybody wants to tell me that he wants to compensate what happened on that day must first of all give us a good election. Say what you will about Jonathan. Jonathan lost an election and he called Are we able to have that today? No. Are we able to have a good election where the military will not be involved, where you are not going to say some people must wear wristbands before they are allowed to vote, and those who don't have it cannot vote?
Well, I mean, all of this is very interesting, but we need to take a short break. And that will be all on this segment of the morning show. We'll take a short break now. When the morning show returns, Adesua Moruan and Rufai Hussaini will be here to take you through the rest of the show. Stay with us.